So far now we've talked about method that tell us what to do, status code that tells the client what happened. So now we'll talk about headers. And when we say headers now, headers carry context. Headers are key value pair that live at the top of every request and response. They handle the things that the URL body counts: the authentication, the caching, the content negotiation, and the calls. Just remember these 4 things, like content type, authorization, cache control, and many more actually. So that's what it does right there. So I'm going to talk about content type and accept. So this tells the recipient what format the body is in. So we have like content type application/JSON, right? So if you're building an API, don't forget to set the following, like you're building a JSON API, you should not forget that the content type should be application/JSON on your request. The server side may reject it if you mispass the body. This is the most common. And why isn't my API working bug that new developers face? Because you forget to set the content type to be application/JSON. So look at it now. If you look at accept now, if you're accepting now, you're accepting application/JSON. So it goes in another direction. It looks like, okay, now it's on the request telling the server what format of what client wants back. So also have accept now. We also have some types of ones you can. This is multi-part form data. Meaning you are filling in some form data and you want it to like carry some images, use a form data. Then we also have like application/xww form URL encoded. So why design API now should respect the accept header. Most modern REST API now assume that JSON and return JSON regardless. So it's something that you should always it should be well documented when you are working. And we also have authorization. How you prove who you are. So when I'm logged in, yes, I know that you enter your password and username at the beginning, but how does a computer system, how does the server know that this is who you are? So when we request for a user profile, we are trying to get this particular user's profile. So if you look at the authorization code here, you see the bearer token, which is the most common that we always use. So we see the bearer key, then we say token, EYJ-ish. We see token, that's a long string of after the bearer there. And it's a JWT, which is JSON Web Token. JWT, yes, JSON Web Token. Used by the vast majority of API you see here now. We built it to allow the flows to work. Now we'll be talking more about this in the future video. But for now, understand the authorization header is how your request carry identity. That is basically how your request carry identity. Because this token right here is encoded with your username and your password. Just like that. So you don't use it over plain HTTP or request TLS. It's actually encode your username and your password, and it also have a secret key, which the server will use to decode it to know who is sending the request in that sense. So it is used very well internally, but you never exploit it over your HTTP without TLS. And there's a rule of thumb here, right here, which is like modern API now uses authorization, bearer token, learn to read it, learn to send it, and in series 2 you provide a validate data for there. So we have a full tutorial in the next series on this. So if you might be watching this on the series is already out, so do well to go check it out on the YouTube channel, Build With You, and learn that. So we have cache control. And when we say cache control now, what do we mean by that now? So cache control is how both the server side and the client, negotiate caching behavior. So on a response now, the server uses it to tell the browser and the CDNS now how long they can hold on to a particular data. So if you say cache control now, max age now is equals to 360. This is in seconds. That's it. You are saying cache this for an hour. If you say no cache, which means always validate first, right? But if you say something like no store, which means never cache this, and if you say private, which means browser only, not CDN. Right. So this is a cache control. This is how we use it now. So when you request to a server now, it forces a refresh response even when I have a cache copy. When you set it as no cache. Right. So if your API is returning a stale data, you still can't figure out why. Check if a DNS or a reverse proxy in that sense is catching your response that shouldn't be catched. In that sense, that's why at times you have to like press on add refresh to get a new data on your application. Just imagine now you are building an e-commerce API and you have this endpoint that listed out all the products. So if you catch those products, if you add new products, if it's not after 1 hour, you might not see the reflection of the new product you added until the catching period is over. So I think we're good for that. So we can just move to the next slide. So more headers worth knowing. We also have the S request ID, which is a unique ID for tracing one's request across all services. So every login middleware should stamp on this. So you have this one now that just like your login middleware now, like they have a stamp that they use to trace every one of your requests. We have the core headers now. And this accept access control. Okay, this is access control allow origin. Right? Access control allowed method. Tell the browser which cross origin requests are allowed. So you refer the clause every time in front-end projects actually, because from the back-end programming aspect of things, you have to be able to tell the front-end developer that, okay, I want this to be displays. I want this particular URL to have access to my API. Then we have the set cookie. So cookie. These are the session travel now. So server send a set cookie to the browser store it. Then every subsequent request send a cookie back automatically. In that sense, now we have ETag or if not match. What this does particularly now is that it valid. Okay, now this cache validation now, the server send an ETag, which is a hatch response. Right, a hatch response content is a hatch response content now. On the next request, the server sent if none match ETag. And the server reply with 304 not modify if nothing has changed. But if something has changed, we have to like go on with it and apply it in that sense.